Evaluation question 6. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? In this video, I'll be going over the various forms of technology I've used, from hardware to software and online platforms. I'll also talk about the advantages and disadvantages I found from using them, along with what I've learnt during the construction process of my product. In terms of hardware, I used two main technologies, which were a camera and computer. The cameras I used were the 1200D and the 600D, the 1200 being my own personal camera and the 600 being school property, which I used for my front cover photo shoot. The computers I used were Apple Mac, again school property, and my own standard desktop PC. The software I used was a lot more varied, as I used many different platforms and programs to help me with the production process. In production, as in the construction of my front cover, double page spread and contents page, I used Photoshop, versions CS6 and CS2, although I did try out InDesign for my double page spread briefly, before deciding it wasn't suited to my needs. For video editing, as in making these videos for the evaluation questions, I used Microsoft Expression Encoder and Microsoft Screen Capture tool. I use these for capturing shots of my computer screen as it allows me to film what I do, for example a shot of me scrolling through a website or any programs I'm using. Afterwards, when I have all my footage, I use Windows Movie Maker to put it all together, as unfortunately I don't have access to more professional programs such as Final Cut Pro. Online, I use sites such as Blogger, SlideShare and Prezi to present my works in different ways. So, now I'm going to go into more depth on the technologies I used and why. First of all, the cameras, the 600D and the 1200D. These are both good pieces of equipment that, when doing photo shoots for images for the pages of my magazine, gave me high quality photographs, with the 1200D having an 18 megapixel sensor and HD movie quality filming capabilities. I already had prior experience with these through studying in A-level photography, so I found them easy to work with, aside from any errors of my own in doing photographs that were shaky or out of focus. So here are some examples of photographs I got using these cameras. I didn't find many disadvantages to either camera, mostly because of the experience I had already established with using them, but I did learn more about the technology when I used it in conjunction with a professional lighting in a media studio. The media studio at Needham Park Academy was the location for the photo shoot for the front cover of my magazine. The equipment in the studio included the Canon 600D camera, a tripod and professional studio lighting, along with a grey backdrop for reflecting light. Through using studio lighting, I learned how to position it to create the 3-point lighting I had researched so my subjects were well lit, and I also had to make sure I didn't have unwanted shadows obscuring my images. In the photo shoot, I started with a few test shots of my subjects, but found the grey backdrop was giving the subjects a sticker effect, so I removed the backdrop and found that I got much better results without it. I adjusted the camera's settings according to the lighting I already had, meaning I was using a relatively low ISO, light sensitivity, and medium aperture. This was so I could maintain the flash shutter speed and not get any overexposed images. Other than the lighting, I didn't gain much new knowledge of the equipment as I was already experienced with operating a tripod and camera from my studies in A-level photography, however it was my first time working in a professional studio. Finally, working with my models proved to be the real challenge in the shoot, as although they were happy to pose and follow any instructions, if they moved too much then it produced a blurred or shaky photograph that I'd be unable to use in my product. As a result of this, I learned to be more adaptable, and I used the manual focus to focus the camera before each new position my subjects were in, which helped reduce the chance of getting shaky or blurred shots. The two computers I used during my production process were the Apple Mac and my own standard desktop PC. On the Mac, I had access to programs such as Photoshop CS6 and InDesign that I needed for my production, and any Microsoft program like Word or PowerPoint that I needed. I found using the Mac to be efficient and relatively quick, as it has a high-performance processor and the system specializes in user-friendly software for creative use. The large high-definition screen allowed me to see my production in a lot more detail, and it was also convenient for multitasking purposes, such as where I needed multiple windows open at once, which is more difficult on standard PCs unless you have two computer monitors. Although my standard desktop had the same programs and was still simple to use, it wasn't as fast, and I found the smaller screen to be a disadvantage when editing. From using the Mac, I learned that it's a lot more efficient, at least when I used it for the construction of my magazine, and a lot better for these creative purposes than the PC. As a result of having access to the Mac, I had a lot more options for choosing the programs I wanted to use in production, such as InDesign, which I was previously unfamiliar with, so I learned to use a much wider range of programs than I would have with using just my PC. Microsoft Expression Encoder and Screen Capture is a tool that allows you to record your computer screen, for example when you're using a program. This was useful to me because I used it to record footage from my previous evaluation question regarding my survey results, where I scrolled through a preview of my survey on the site SurveyMonkey. After you're done recording, you can send the footage to the program Expression Encoder and edit the clip, for example shortening it or cutting out sections, and then choose the video format for the output. Using this program I learnt more in terms of editing skills and creating videos, and it helped give me a more professional look to them, rather than simply having slides with voice narration. After encoding the footage, I sent it to Windows Movie Maker, the program I use to edit video and add the narration. The program was simple and relatively easy to use, but I found that it was difficult to be precise when cutting the clips. Considering I didn't have access to best quality programs such as Final Cut Pro, it was overall a good tool for the simple editing I needed to do, which basically consisted of putting together videos and audio. For the majority of my production, I worked in Photoshop, a digital editing program usually used for readjusting and creating images. I used this both to edit my own images, such as those from the photo shoot for the main image of my front cover, and to construct my magazine as a whole. The program had a range of different features for this, such as various fonts to choose from, photo editing features such as exposure and hue and saturation, along with different paintbrushes and eraser tools. A benefit to using this program was that it enabled me to work in layers, meaning I could edit features of magazines separately without inadvertently affecting anything else on the page. From using this, I improved on my previously established skills by using tools I hadn't before, such as the spot healing tool when I was editing the photos of my models to remove any imperfections. Fortunately, I already had experience using Photoshop to edit photos from my studies in A-level photography, so it didn't take me long to improve them, but I did learn to use a few new tools in the program too. I used two versions of Photoshop in my production, CS6 on the Mac as it was a newer version, and CS2 on my desktop PC at home. There wasn't much difference between the two apart from the layout, as CS2 still had many of the same tools that I needed as CS6, so this wasn't a problem. I used InDesign to partly construct my double-page spread. This program was completely new to me, but I decided to use it because it would allow me to work in columns, and I had heard that it is often used in professional magazines. For using it, I learnt to import photos into the program and arrange them on the page, add text and images, and create a background by using the gradient tool. It had many of the same tools as Photoshop, but my main problem was getting used to the program's layout, considering the short timescale I had to create the page. Therefore, I switched to Photoshop, providing I could construct the same conventions such as the drop cap and the pull-out quote that my audience would expect to see. The downside to working in Photoshop for this was that I had to create my columns of text manually. However, I found working in Photoshop a lot more efficient, and I managed to successfully add the conventions I needed to, and through my albeit brief experience with InDesign, I learnt to be more adaptable and to work on a different format than I'm used to. To present my production, I used a variety of online platforms such as Blogger, Prezi, and SlideShare. Blogger is an online platform that allowed me to upload my research, magazine products, and the process of my production with a commentary, all to one website, my blog. This was very useful as I could embed different documents and photos into blog posts and come back to the site when I need to refer to them later, rather than having to search through multiple platforms to find them. I used SlideShare to upload presentations and documents so I could then embed them into my blog. It was very useful as I learned I could upload PowerPoints and Word documents, enabling me to work on platforms other than Prezi and gave more variety to my work. Finally, I used Prezi as another way to present it. Prezi is an online presentation platform that allows you to pick a pre-made design with colour scheme, fonts and background image all ready to use in making a presentation. It's similar to PowerPoint except I found it a lot more efficient and the different layout made for much more interesting presentations. Prior to this product I was unfamiliar with Prezi, but I found it simple and user-friendly, so I got used to working with it quickly and consequently learned a new way to show my work. Overall, through the use of these different hardwares, platforms and programs, I learned a lot of new skills in my production process. I learned to use a wider variety of technologies and gain more experience with programs I hadn't previously had many opportunities to be creative with, such as the Mac computers, which helped me to be a lot more efficient in my work and were a more refreshing method to creating the media product than my usual desktop. Using these different technologies has been very beneficial in my production, giving me lots of different options and more tools to be creative, and I feel I have learned a lot about them.